There is a specific kind of headache that lives just behind my left eye. I've had it on and off for about 8 months. The doctor says tension. The doctor says screen time, posture, hydration. The doctor has not met Sera Calloway. I know she's coming before she rounds the corner. I always know. It's not that I hear her. She moves quietly, the kind of quiet that isn't effort, just nature. It's more that the headache shifts, like a compass needle correcting itself. And then she's there, holding 2 coffees, wearing that expression she always wears when she already knows the answer to the question she's about to ask. "You forgot your lanyard again," she says, and holds out the coffee that is correctly oat milk with no sugar. I check my neck. She's right, I left it on my desk. "How did you—" I start. "You do it every Monday," she says. "And every Monday you make the face you're making right now?" She sets the coffee down on the reception ledge, takes a sip of hers, black, which has always seemed like a personal statement, and waits while I clip the lanyard on the way a person waits for a slow computer to load something they already know the result of. Here is what I know about Sera Calloway after 8 months of sitting 12 feet away from her in an open-plan office. She is 24, same as me. She has a degree in something she never names. She takes her lunch outside regardless of weather. She has never, to my knowledge, been flustered by anything. She remembers everything. She anticipates things. And she has the mildest, most even expression I have ever seen on a human face, except for sometimes in the corner of a meeting, or when she thinks I'm not looking, when something moves behind her eyes like weather behind glass, and she looks at me, and the headache spikes, and then she looks away. The first time I asked Marcus about her, he shrugged and said, "She's just like that. Some people are just like that." Marcus is my best friend and is usually right about everything except this. I carry my coffee to my desk. The office smells like printer toner and someone's lavender hand cream Reeve. Jenna's from accounts, who started 3 weeks ago and has already brought me a pastry twice and left a compliment on my desk calendar in neat handwriting. Jenna is kind and uncomplicated, and I'm quietly trying to figure out if I like her back, which is the kind of problem a normal person has. I open my laptop. The morning stretches ahead of me. 3 client decks, a brand refresh that nobody at the client company actually wants. The low hum of an office building in the first hour of Tuesday. I am a normal person with normal problems. Then Sera looks up from her desk across the 12 feet of carpet between us and says, "The Marchetti deck. You're thinking about changing the serif to something geometric, aren't you?" I haven't spoken. I have not opened the Marchetti file. I am looking at my screensaver. "Yes," I say. She nods once like a judge confirming something and goes back to her screen. The headache pulses once. My coffee goes cold faster than it should. This is a normal Tuesday. This is every Tuesday. What I don't know, and what I won't know for another 6 days, is that this is the last ordinary Tuesday I will ever have. That by the end of it, Jenna from accounts will have handed in her notice and accepted a transfer to the Glasgow office, which she mentioned to me last week she had no interest in ever doing. That Dana Reyes from HR will have processed that paperwork with an efficiency that will not for a few more days seem strange. That somewhere in the building, in a folder I have not been authorized to open, there are transfer papers with Sera Calloway's name on them and a departure date of next Monday, 6 days. I don't know any of this yet. I just know the headache and the coffee and the 12 feet of carpet, and Sera already looking back at her screen. I open the Marchetti deck. I change the serif to something geometric. Marcus takes me to lunch at the sandwich place around the corner that isn't good but is fast, which is the only quality we require from lunch on a Tuesday. Jenna quit, he says, around a mouthful of something. I set my sandwich down. She quit? Well, transferred. Dana pushed through the Glasgow posting this morning. Jenna apparently went for it. He shrugs, not looking at me in a way that is noticeable. Surprised me. She seemed settled. I think about the pastry. I think about the handwriting on the calendar. I think about last Thursday when Jenna had laughed at something I said and then glanced briefly towards Sera's desk with an expression I hadn't quite filed away. Did she seem... I start. She seemed fine, Orchitz, Marcus says quickly and with finality, and hands me a napkin I didn't ask for. I eat my sandwich. I think. Here's the list I haven't been keeping out loud, but apparently my brain has been maintaining quietly in some back drawer. Priya from the art department 8 months ago. Warm, funny, interested in me in a way she wasn't subtle about. Gone inside of 2 weeks, moved back to her home city for a reason she described to me in a goodbye message that felt like something she'd been told to write. Lori from accounts receivable 5 months ago asked me to get a drink. I said yes. She canceled twice and then moved desks and stopped meeting my eyes. Amanda, one of the client liaisons 2 months ago, we had one coffee that went well, and then the next day she requested a team reassignment and I haven't spoken to her since. And now Jenna. 3 weeks and a pastry and handwriting on a calendar and then Glasgow. I sit with the list and I think, coincidence. I think, I'm not that significant. I think people move. People change their minds. I think this is exactly the kind of pattern matching that a person who doesn't sleep enough performs on neutral events. Then I get back to the office and Sera is at my desk, straightening a pen I didn't notice was crooked. And she looks up and says, "Good lunch?" "Sure," I say. She studies me for a second. The way she always studies me, like she's reading something. Like I am a text in a language she is fluent in, and I have just produced an interesting sentence. And then she smiles. Small, specific, not a performance. "You look like you're adding things up," she says. "I'm always adding things up," I say. "I know," she says, "and that's what I like about you." She goes back to her desk. I sit down. My pen is objectively now perfectly straight. It takes me until 6 o'clock that evening to notice the printed email sitting at the bottom of my in-tray from Dana and HR, dated today, marked internal, departmental update. Effective next Monday, Sera Calloway, Senior Designer Creative, will be transferring to our Singapore branch. We wish her well in this new chapter. 6 days. I read the email 4 times. Then I read it again. Then I put it face down on my desk like that does something. I look across the 12 feet of carpet. Sera is shutting down her computer with her usual tidiness, packing her bag with the small, precise movements she uses for everything. She doesn't look at me. For the first time in 8 months, she doesn't look at me. That's when I know that she knows, that she's known since before the email arrived, that she has always known. The headache, which has been quiet since lunch, comes back hard behind my left eye, and I press 2 fingers against it, and I think, 6 days. I have 6 days to understand what is happening, and then she will be gone, and I will never be able to ask. I call Marcus at 9 p.m. standing in my kitchen eating cereal because I forgot to eat dinner, the transfer email on the counter next to the milk. "Sera's leaving," I say when he picks up. A pause. "Yeah, I heard." "You knew already. I heard it this afternoon." Marcus. He's quiet for longer than he should be. In the background I can hear his TV, some game, the low surge of crowd noise. He turns it down. "Elliot," he says in a different voice, the one he saves for things he means. "Tell me what you know," I say. "I don't know anything." "You're the worst liar I've met in my life," he exhales. "I have observations. They're not evidence." "Tell me." Another pause. Then, "Have you noticed," and I'm asking this carefully, "that every woman who's ever shown any interest in you in the time you've worked here has relocated?" The milk carton is very cold in my hand. "I noticed," I say. "Priya, Lori, Amanda, now Jenna. I know. And all of them were processed through Dana's office within a week of..." He stops. "Within a week of what?" "Within a week of Sera finding out." I put the milk down. The kitchen is very quiet. The fridge hums. Outside, a car passes. "How would Sera find out?" I say carefully. "That's the question I've been not asking myself for 5 months, Marcus says, because the answer options are all insane. I think about the headache. I think about coffees brought without being asked. I think about geometric serifs and pens that are suddenly straight, and the way Sera looks at me sometimes like she's reading a sentence I didn't know I'd written. She can hear me thinking, I say, out loud, to another person, for the first time. Marcus doesn't laugh. He doesn't say that's crazy. He's quiet for a moment, and then he says, I was going to say she's very perceptive, but sure, whatever version of it that is. Marcus, I'm not equipped for this conversation, Elliot. I'm a man who orders the same sandwich every day. Do you think she's dangerous? A long pause, the longest one yet. And what he says is, I think she's in love with you, and I think that's doing most of the work. I stand in my kitchen for a while after we hang up. The cereal goes soft. The email is still on the counter. I read it again, Sera Calloway, Singapore, Monday. And I think about what Marcus said, and I think about whether love and danger have ever historically been mutually exclusive. The headache is quiet, which somehow feels more unsettling than when it pulses. I go to bed. I don't sleep for a very long time. Here are 6 things I notice on Wednesday, now that I'm paying the kind of attention I should have been paying for 8 months. 1. Sera arrives 12 minutes before anyone else. She always does. I've never tracked it before, but she does, and the first thing she does every morning is look at my desk before I'm in it, in the same quiet way a person checks on something they tend. 2. When Daniel from Client Services stops at my desk to ask about the Marchetti revisions and stands slightly too close to me and talks to me in the easy way he has that women seem to like, Sera's typing speed increases by an audible amount. She doesn't look up, but the typing gets harder. 3. She brought me lunch without being asked. Set it on my desk while I was in a meeting, no note, the exact sandwich I would have ordered. With the additional bag of chips I only want about 40% of the time, and apparently today was one of those days. 4. At 3 p.m. I fake a phone call and go stand near the window on the north side of the building where the reception is bad, to see if the headache changes. It does. It fades from sharp to dull, the way a signal weakens with distance. And when I walk back toward the main office, it rebuilds slowly, reaching full strength at approximately 12 feet from my desk. 5. I open LinkedIn and look up Priya. Her profile shows her current city. She is not in her home city. She's in Edinburgh. The reason she gave me for leaving Hebridean to be closer to family Friazer is based on her location not accurate. 6. At the end of the day, as I'm shutting down, Sera walks past my desk, normal, routine, on her way to the lift, and she stops. Just for a second. She looks at me. And what her face does in that second is something I've never seen it do before. It shows strain, like holding something still that wants to move, like a door with too much weight on the other side. Good night, Elliot, she says. Good night, I say. She goes. The headache goes with her, sliding out like a tide, and I sit in the quiet office thinking, she knows I'm looking, she knows I'm counting, she knows, and she's afraid, and she's leaving in 4 days, and there is a version of this where I do nothing and she gets on a plane, and I spend the rest of my life in a headache-free office wondering. I close my laptop. I go home. I call my sister Claire. My sister Claire is 30 and has the specific emotional intelligence of a person who has made enough mistakes to become accidentally wise. She's also the only person who will say the thing directly instead of talking around it, which is sometimes exhausting and right now is exactly what I need. I tell her everything. All of it. The list, the headache, the sandwiches, the LinkedIn, the Singapore transfer, the look on Sera's face when she thinks I'm not watching. When I'm done, Claire is quiet for a moment. Then she says, How long have you been in love with her? I open my mouth to argue. I close it. 8 months, I say, and you're framing this as an investigation. She made women disappear, Claire. You don't know that. You know women left. You don't know she made them. The timing? Elliot. Her voice is gentle but firm. I'm not saying she's not, whatever she is. I'm saying that your first question tonight was not, how do I protect myself? It was, what do I do? That's a different question. I sit with that. The apartment is dark. I forgot to turn the lights on. What if she's been doing something to me, I say, to make me feel this way? Does it feel manufactured? I think about the headache. The reliable compass needle headache, which is unpleasant but has never, not once, told me to feel something I didn't feel. The headache is information, not instruction. No, I say. It feels like the realest thing I've got. Then that's your answer, Claire says. The other stuff, the women, the transfers, that's a conversation you have to have with her before she leaves, not after. What if she reads my thoughts and knows I'm going to confront her and... Elliot, Claire says, she already knows. She's known since you started counting. I lean back against the kitchen counter. The dark apartment sits around me. In my head, I can almost feel the absence of the headache, the quiet left behind by 12 feet of distance, and I think about what it will feel like when it's not 12 feet but 8,000 miles, and it won't be absence. It'll just be gone, and there won't be a compass needle because there won't be anything left to point at. Okay, I say. Okay, what? Okay, I'll talk to her. Tomorrow, Claire says. Don't overthink it. What do I say? She pauses. Then, ask her something she can't have read ahead of time. Ask her something that's a real question. Not an accusation, not a performance, a real thing you actually want to know. I think about that all night. In the morning, I know what I want to ask. I plan to do it cleanly. I plan to walk in, invite her for coffee, ask the question, watch her face, get the truth. I plan for 5 minutes. What actually happens is that Dana Reyes is waiting by my desk at 8:47 a.m. with a printed form and a smile like a freshly painted wall. Elliot, just a quick one. She sets the form down. We're doing a restructuring review as part of the Singapore transition. Standard stuff. And I need you to fill out a peer assessment for Sera. Just for the record, I look at the form. I look at Dana. Dana is 40, efficient, and has processed every single departure from this office in the past 8 months. She is also, I realize now, looking at me with something more than professional interest. She is measuring something. When do you need it? I say. End of day, she says too quickly. Then, actually, there's one more thing. Given the restructure, we're also reviewing desk assignments. It's possible your team gets moved to the second floor after next week. She pauses. Just want to make sure people have a chance to say their goodbyes before things shift around. She says it kindly. She even makes it sound like a favor. I understand in that moment that Dana Reyes has been the logistics. Whatever Sera noticed, Dana was how it moved. The transfers, the postings, the reassignments, all of them are clean enough to survive a review, processed correctly, never forced. But Dana knew, and Dana helped, and Dana is here now with a form to fill out and a gentle reference to goodbyes because she wants Sera gone before I get to ask the question. I'll have it by end of day, I say. Dana smiles and leaves. I file the form in the bottom drawer. I will not be filling it out. The Singapore transfer papers are confirmed. 4 days. I look across the office. Sera is watching me. She watched the whole thing. Her expression is nothing. Still. And that's how I know she's afraid. I cross the 12 feet of carpet and I pull up a chair and I sit down across from her and I say, quietly enough that nobody else can hear, "How long have you been reading my thoughts?" The stillness breaks. Just for a second, a fracture across the surface, and then it reassembles, but now I can see the seam. I don't, she starts. How long, I say, not aggressive, not angry, just asking. The real question, the one Claire told me to ask. A pause that is long enough to hold a lot of things. Since we met, she says. I nod. My heart is doing something complicated, but my voice is steady, which surprises me. The women, I say, Priya, Lori, Amanda, Jenna. She holds my eyes for 2 more seconds and then looks down at her desk and what her hands do. She pressed them flat against the surface like she's bracing something. Is the most honest thing I've seen her do in 8 months. They were going to take something from you, she says very quietly. They liked me, I say. That's all. They just liked me. I know, she says. And then even quieter, So do I. I sit with that. Around us, the office moves. Keyboards, phones, someone laughing 2 rows away, the world doing its ordinary thing while this happens. And now you're leaving, I say. Yes? Because you decided to, or because Dana? Because I decided to, she says, and something sharp comes into her voice. Dana doesn't decide anything I don't allow. A pause. I decided it because I can hear what you're thinking, Elliot, and you're afraid of me. You should be afraid of me, and it's... She stops. The hands press flatter. It's not fair to stay and keep doing what I've been doing, even if I can hear that you... She stops again. Say it, I say. She looks up. Her eyes are the color of the sky before it goes fully dark, and I've never let myself look directly at this before, and I am looking now. I can hear that you love me, she says. I've heard it for months, and I know I'm the reason you haven't said it, and I know I should have left sooner, and I know what I did was wrong. The words come more quickly now, with more weight behind them than she usually lets through. I know it was wrong. And I know you're going to figure out what to do with that, and I can't keep sitting 12 feet from you reading everything you think and not... She stops. She closes her eyes. She breathes. You have 4 days, I say, to explain all of it. She opens her eyes. What do you want explained? She says. Everything, I say, starting from the beginning. The first lunch is awkward. We go to the coffee shop on the corner, not the sandwich place, somewhere quieter, and she tells me about the headache. It started apparently on her end too. She describes it differently. Not a headache, but a presence, like a frequency she couldn't turn down. She has had it in varying forms her entire life. With me, it was stronger than it had ever been, immediate from the first week. She knew my name before she introduced herself. She knew I took oat milk. She knew, and this is where her voice gets careful, that nobody had ever made her feel the frequency like this, like I was the station her whole antenna was tuned for. Is that supposed to make this better, I say? No, she says, I'm just telling you what it is. What is it, technically? She wraps her hands around her coffee cup. My mother had it. Her mother had it. Nobody has a clean word for it. I think it's something that isn't supposed to be possible, and is anyway. And I've had it so long that I don't know how to describe not having it. Can you turn it off? From most people, yes. From you. She looks at me levelly. I've tried. Since the first week. I've tried consistently. I think about this. I think about 8 months of trying and still arriving every morning with 2 coffees, still knowing about the lanyard, still straightening the pen. The women, I say, that wasn't... You didn't have the right to do that. No, she says simply and immediately. I didn't. You need to say more than that. She sets her coffee down. She looks out the window at the gray morning street, and then back at me, and she says, I told myself it was protecting you. From people who didn't know you, I could hear what they thought about you, and it was shallow and small, and you deserved... She stops. I know how that sounds. It sounds like a reason that made sense to you and still wasn't fair to them. Yes, she says, that's exactly what it is. The second lunch, she tells me about Dana. Dana found out about the ability 3 years ago after Sera, then new at the company, prevented a client disaster by knowing in advance what the client was going to reject. Dana is not afraid of it. She finds it useful. She has been for 3 years quietly directing Sera toward problems that need solving, including... And this is where the picture assembles fully, including the management of people who Sera's attention was on. Dana didn't do it out of malice. She did it out of tidiness. A clean operation. Nothing on paper that couldn't be defended. She used you, I say. We had a mutual arrangement, Sera says. Then, yes, she used me. The Singapore transfer, whose idea? Hers. But I agreed. Why? The second lunch ends without a full answer to this one. The third lunch, she gives it to me. She agreed because she could hear, has always been able to hear, what I was beginning to think, the counting, the list, The Tuesday in the kitchen with the cereal going soft, she heard all of it. She heard me arrive at the answer, and she knew that arrival meant the end of the 12 feet of carpet and the 2 coffees and the quiet, ordinary thing they'd had. And she thought, she says this quietly looking at the table, she thought it would be better to leave before I made a decision I'd have to own, before I had to look at her and choose. You thought I'd choose wrong, I say. I thought you'd choose correctly, she says. I thought you'd choose to protect yourself. The 4th lunch, I asked the question that has been sitting behind all the others since chapter 3. Since Marcus said, I think she's in love with you, and that's doing most of the work. Has anything you felt toward me, I say, ever made you want to hurt me? Sera is quiet for a long moment. The coffee shop makes its noises around us. Someone at the next table is having a normal conversation about a film. The world continues. No, she says, never. Not once. I believe her. That's the part I can't get past. Can't argue my way out of. I believe her, and I don't know if that's the love talking or the truth, and I'm not sure that distinction matters as much as I thought it did. Marcus finds me in the office kitchen at 7 p.m. on Thursday, everyone else gone, me making my 4th coffee of the day as a displacement activity. I've been watching you 2 have lunches, he says, with the tone of a man who has decided to say a thing. We've been talking, I say. I can see that. You look like someone learning to defuse a bomb. That's accurate. He leans against the counter. He has his serious face on. Marcus's serious face is almost identical to his normal face, but slightly quieter, like someone turned a dial down. What have you figured out? She's not going to stop being what she is, I say. She can't. It's not a choice. Okay. And she did things that were wrong. The transfers, the removal of anyone who looked at me, also okay. And she's been in love with me for 8 months, which I've known since approximately week 2 and been carefully not knowing. Marcus nods. What are you going to do? I pour the coffee. I think about what Claire said. I think about the question that was never how do I protect myself, but always what do I do? I think about the compass needle and the frequency and the way Sera's hands press flat against her desk when she's carrying something she won't say. I'm going to ask her not to get on the plane, I say. Marcus is quiet for a second. Then, you understand that if you do that, you're also asking for all of it. The reading your thoughts thing, all of it. I know. And the Dana situation needs to be resolved because Dana is going to, I know. I have a plan for Dana. He picks up his own cup, studies it. For what it's worth, he says, and I want to be clear, this is not normal friend advice because none of this is normal. She's looked at you the same way for 8 months, every day. I've been watching it. Whatever you want to call it, it's consistent. He takes a sip. Consistency matters. That is weirdly the most reassuring thing you've said. I do my best. He puts his cup down and heads for the door, and then he pauses. Also, for what it's worth, the sandwich she brought you on Wednesday. I watched her order it. She stood at the counter for 5 minutes second-guessing the chips. In the end, she added them because, and she said this out loud to herself very quietly, thinking nobody was listening, she said, he's going to want the chips today. He pauses. Just thought you should know that. He goes. I stand in the empty kitchen. I drink my coffee. She second-guessed the chips. She stood there for 5 minutes and then added them because she knew and decided it mattered that today was a chips day. Something that has been held very still in my chest for 8 months quietly releases. Friday, 2 days before Monday. The building has a roof terrace that nobody uses except during a specific 2-week period in summer when the weather briefly cooperates. It is currently October, and it is cold, and the sky is the flat, dark gray of a city holding its breath before rain. This is where I find Sera at 6:15 p.m., standing at the railing looking at the skyline, her coat on, her bag at her feet. I push open the roof door and she doesn't turn around. She knows I'm there before I'm there. I'm not getting on the plane, she says. Before I say anything, I stop. I'm not getting on the plane, she says again. I called Dana this afternoon and I withdrew from the transfer. She's not happy, but It's my decision. I walk over and stand next to her at the railing. The city below us. Lights coming on in buildings, traffic sounds, someone's music from a window far down. Cold air. The specific smell of a city just before rain, metallic and alive. Why? I say. Because I was leaving to make a decision for you, she says, to take the choice away, to protect you from having to choose. She turns to look at me. Her face in the cold light is open, the most open I've seen it. I've been making decisions for you for 8 months. I think you deserve to make this one yourself. We stand at the railing for a while. The rain holds off. Below us, the city does its evening thing, indifferent and enormous, and full of people having their own complicated Fridays. And then I say it, the thing I've been not saying since approximately week 2. I love you. And she says, I know. And then for the first time in 8 months, she reaches over and takes my hand, and I feel the headache, the consistent compass needle headache that has been my only reliable indicator that she is near. Change. Not go away. Change. Shift into something that is less pain and more pressure. The kind of pressure that is another person, that is warmth and weight, that is a frequency you're no longer trying to tune out. We stand there for a long moment, her hand in mine, the city below. This is the part where the story could end. This is the part that looks like the ending, with the rain still holding off and the hand holding and the city lights and everything almost resolved. And then my phone buzzes. And then again. And I look at it. It's from Marcus. Dana's calling an emergency HR review Monday morning. She's framing the whole thing. You need to see this. You need to. And then a forwarded email. Dana Reyes to the executive team, sent 1 hour ago. Detailing, with careful professional language and 0 fingerprints, a pattern of inappropriate influence on departmental decisions, her words, attributing it to Sera. It is clean. It is thorough. And it lands on Monday morning, exactly when Sera was supposed to be safely on a plane. I show Sera the phone. She reads it. Her face goes still again. Not the old stillness, the one that was distance, but a new one, harder, thinking. She planned for the possibility I'd cancel the transfer, Sera says. Yes. She has documentation. She has 8 months of it. Sera is quiet. Her hand is still in mine, and she doesn't let go. Which I notice, which matters. What's the plan, she says. I told Marcus I had one, I say. I wasn't entirely lying. The plan started forming when Dana put that peer assessment form on my desk Friday morning. Specifically, why did she need a peer assessment from me in the particular? Specifically, why, of everyone in the department, did she come to me? Because I'm the one whose behavior she needed on record. Not Sera's, mine. My transfer request, my assessment, my documented professional distance from Sera Calloway, which makes the story clean. A junior designer, appropriately updating a transfer he thought was wrong, now seeing it in professional context. The problem with that plan, Dana's plan, is that the form is in my bottom drawer. I never filled it out. And the email she sent the exec team, it references colleague assessments currently being collected, which means she's already told them a document exists that does not in fact exist. I explained this to Marcus and Sera in the office at 8 p.m. on Friday, the 3 of us around my desk with the city going dark outside. She lied to the exec team, Marcus says. She told them a document exists that doesn't, I say, which is a version of lying, yes. And if we, Marcus starts, if we tell them the form was never completed, which Dana can't know I didn't do, she just assumed, then her email falls apart. She's described a document she has no knowledge of the content of. I pause. And then we give them the real picture? What is the real picture? Sera says quietly. I look at her. The real picture is that Dana Reyes has, for 3 years, used your particular skill set to manage personnel in ways that aren't documented, aren't defensible, and affected the careers of at least 4 people in this building. I pause. I've been doing this in my head since Wednesday. I can walk through all of it. But it only works if you... I stop. If I'm honest about what I can do, she says, yes. The room is quiet. Marcus is looking at the window. Sera is looking at me. Will they believe it? She says. No, I say. But they'll believe the documentation, the transfers, the timing. Priya, Lori, Amanda, Jenna. They're all findable. They all left through Dana's office in under 2 weeks of... I stop because this is the part that costs something to say, of Sera becoming aware of their interest. Sera absorbs this without looking away from me. You're going to put all of that in a room. I'm going to put all of that in a room. And then I'm going to ask Priya and Lori and Amanda and Jenna by email tonight whether what happened to their careers is something they want addressed. Another quiet. Then Marcus says, Priya will say yes. I know Priya. I pull out my laptop. Sera pulls her chair over. Marcus goes to make coffee. We are here until midnight, and the rain finally comes, and the office is quiet, and this is the part of the story that isn't romantic at all. It's just the work. Just doing the work carefully and correctly so that when Monday comes, we have something real. 3 of the 4 women respond by Sunday morning. Priya, as Marcus predicted, yes, immediately, with a message that is 1 sentence of contained fury and several of careful specifics. Lori, yes, after 2 hours with a longer message that takes me time to read and longer to sit with. Jenna, yes, in about 20 minutes with a message that says, and I'm going to remember this, I thought I was going crazy, thank you. Amanda, nothing yet, which is fine, 3 is enough. I show Sera the messages Sunday afternoon. We're in my apartment, the first time she's been here, sitting on opposite ends of the couch like careful diplomats. My apartment smells like old coffee and a candle I lit to disguise this fact. The Sunday afternoon light through the windows is the gray gold of late October. She reads Jenna's message twice. Her jaw tightens. She thought she was going crazy, Sera says. Yes, because of me. I don't soften it. Because of what you did? Yes. She puts the phone down on the cushion between us. For a moment she looks at the window, the gray gold light, the October Sunday, and her face does the thing where weather moves behind glass. I'm sorry, she says. Not to me. To the room, to the general direction of the afternoon, to the 3 women who answered and the one who didn't. I know, I say. It won't fix anything. No. But doing the right thing on Monday might? She looks at me. You're going to be in that room too. Yes? You don't have to. I know I don't have to. I reach over and pick up the phone and hand it back to her, and her hand comes up and takes it. And I don't immediately let go, and we stay like that for a second in Gurns, connected through the phone, which is silly, but is also not. I want to. I've been sitting 12 feet from you for 8 months watching you carry things alone. I'm done watching. The gray gold light moves. Outside, someone on the street laughs at something. The ordinary Sunday afternoon continues around us. Elliot, she says quietly, is, yeah. I can hear everything you're thinking right now. I know. She pauses. It's a lot. Is any of it bad? She thinks about this, actually considers it, which takes a second. No, she says, it's just a lot. Good, I say, get used to it. She laughs. It's surprised out of her, quick and real and slightly undignified, and it is the best thing I've heard in 8 months. I won't narrate the meeting in detail because the meeting is, in the end, less about drama and more about evidence. Dana arrives with her documentation and her professional calm, and I arrive with 3 women's statements and 8 months of transfer records and a peer assessment form she told the exec team existed. And the meeting goes the way a meeting goes when one side has made the mistake of inventing a document. Dana is not a cartoon villain. She is, in the moment it becomes clear, genuinely shocked. Not that she was caught, but that she was wrong. I think she genuinely believed she was protecting the company. I think she genuinely believed Sera was a problem that needed managing. I think she looked at the situation for 3 years and saw only the efficiency of it and never the cost. That doesn't make it right. The HR director says words like unauthorized personnel action and pattern of manipulation and remediation process. Dana says very little. She looks at one point at Sera, and the look is complicated in a way I can't read. Sera meets the look. She says nothing. The meeting ends. Priya and Lori and Amanda and Jenna will be formally contacted with options greener. Transfers reversed where possible, compensation reviewed, records corrected. This is not a happy ending for all of them. Some things can't be fully given back, but it is an honest one. After in the hallway, Marcus punches me lightly in the shoulder and says, "I've had worse Mondays." Sera stands slightly apart, watching the hallway empty, and I go to her, and she says without turning, "I can hear that you're relieved." I am. So am I. A pause. I didn't know I could feel this. She turns. I've been reading every thought you've had since we met, and I didn't know I could feel this specific thing. What thing? Like something is over, she says. She stops. Like I can put something down. I think about 8 months of keeping things still. 8 months of pressing her hands flat against her desk, of the careful posture, of the precision and the management, and the love that moved through all of it like water through stone. You can, I say. She looks at me. Right here, I say. You can put it down. 3 weeks later, it's a Monday again. I forget my lanyard. This is consistent, immutable, apparently a permanent feature of who I am as a person. I walk into the office. Sera's already there, 12 minutes early. She always is. That hasn't changed. 2 coffees on the reception ledge, oat milk, no sugar, and black, which is still a personal statement. She looks up when I come in, and I see her. Really see her the way you can finally look at something once you've stopped trying to manage the looking. And what her face does is simple. It opens. Lanyard, she says. I know, I say, clipping it on. I do it every Monday. I know, she says. That's what I like about you. She said this 8 months ago. Almost exactly this. In the same spot, in the same building, on a different Monday. But something is different. I notice it a second later. Last time after she said it, she turned back to her screen. Quick, controlled, door closed. This time she doesn't. She just stands there, coffee in hand, looking at me, not managing it. Just looking. The headache is there, as it always is. And it is less like tension and more like a signal. Less like pain and more like here, this, now. I've stopped fighting it. I've started using it the way she's always been using it, as information, as proximity, as the specific frequency of another person close enough to reach. Sera, I say. Yes? What am I thinking right now? She tilts her head, a small smile. You're thinking about what you want for lunch, and you're thinking about the Harlow brief, 3rd slide, which you're not happy with but can't articulate why, and you're thinking... She pauses. The smile goes a little softer. You're thinking that you should have kissed me goodbye this morning when I left, but you lost the nerve at the last second. I did lose the nerve, I admit. I know. Any thoughts on that? She picks up the oat milk coffee and holds it out to me. I have thoughts on everything you think, she says perfectly seriously, and I was counting. And you've got about 11 seconds before Marcus comes around that corner, so I would make a decision. I take the coffee. I kiss her. Marcus comes around the corner in what is generously about 8 seconds and makes a noise of theatrical suffering, and the office morning begins. The headache is warm. The coffee is right. The lanyard is on. There's a thing Sera told me in my apartment on a gray gold Sunday 3 weeks ago that I didn't put in earlier because I didn't know what to do with it yet. I know now. She said the reason she could never turn it off, with me specifically, was not just frequency or proximity or whatever clinical words she used to describe what she is. The reason, she said, and this was the thing she said looking at the window instead of me, the way you say the hardest things to her. The reason was that my thoughts were kind. Not always. Not perfectly. But in the default. In the resting state. She's heard a lot of people's thoughts, she said. Most people's internal monologue is not particularly generous to the world. Mine, she said this like it was slightly bewildering. Mine was curious, interested, looking for the good shape of things. I thought about that for a long time. I thought about the list and the headache and the compass needle and the fact that what she fell in love with was something I didn't even know I was doing. Just the way I happened to think, the internal weather I happened to carry, which I've never been especially proud of or particularly aware of. And then I thought, I've been in love with the way she thinks for 8 months too. The precision of her, the care, the restraint that costs her something. The hands flat on the desk. The 5-minute second guessing the chips. The love that was too much and did damage and was real anyway. Real enough to name it wrong and then do the work to name it right. We are not either of us uncomplicated. We are specifically and irreversibly each other's. This morning before she left for work, she's been staying here 4 out of 7 nights, which became a fact before it became a decision. I handed her the earring she'd almost left on the nightstand. Small gold thing, a single stud, the one she's worn every day I've known her. She looked at it in my palm and then looked at me, and her face did that thing. The open thing. The unmanaged thing. And she said, "You always notice the small things." "You notice everything," I say. "Can't let you have all the observational wins." She puts the earring in. She picks up her bag. She is 12 minutes early. She is black coffee. She is the headache I've stopped treating as a symptom and started treating as the clearest signal I've got. At the door, she pauses, turns back, and she says, not the thing she would have said 8 months ago. Not the managed version, the door closed version. She says, "I'll know what you want for lunch before you do." "I know," I say. "Bring the chips." She laughs. The door closes. The headache settles to its warm frequency. The compass needle pointing where it always points. I sit in the quiet apartment for a moment. The morning light comes in. Somewhere in the distance she is walking, and I can feel the distance in the signal. And I think, it's not pain, it's just distance. And I know she can hear me thinking this, all of it. The whole unedited feed of it, and I don't want to turn it down. I've been a readable person this whole time. Turns out that's not the vulnerability I thought it was. I pick up my lanyard, I put it on. I go to work.